Our boy, Kong, presents the Cow King's horn, the horn of the Minotaur, the boss of the Buffalo Hidden Dungeon. This rare material guarantees success when enhancing weapons below A rank. As Kong approaches the blacksmith to upgrade his weapon, the blacksmith is stunned to see the Cow King's horn in his possession. He can hardly believe that Kong has acquired such a high-grade material. Despite Kong being a student at Awakens Academy, it seems almost impossible for a student to defeat an A-rank boss monster. Shocked, the blacksmith asks if this is truly an A-rank material and whether Kong took down the monster alone. Kong clarifies that he defeated the monster with his team. How could he possibly defeat an A-rank boss monster by himself? Kong then places Musarame on the table, revealing that his knife is in terrible condition. He states that since the weapon is already damaged, he might as well have it repaired while enhancing it. The blacksmith, now visibly irritated, demands to know what Kong did to his weapon to cause such extensive wear. With a serious expression, Kong responds, questioning what the blacksmith means by messing it up like this. Feeling uneasy, the blacksmith forces a nervous smile and hesitantly remarks that Kong could have taken better care of his weapon. As the blacksmith worried that Kong might get hurt, Kong reassured him by reminding him of his promise to do everything as agreed. Trusting the blacksmith, Kong left his weapon in his care. As our boy turned to leave, the blacksmith was visibly frustrated, his anger directed at Kong. Internally, he thought to himself that this time, he would make the knife even shorter. Suddenly, Kong stopped, surprising the blacksmith. Our boy turned around and casually told the blacksmith to sell the leftover materials for himself. Hearing this, the blacksmith's anger seemed to cool off, and it appeared that he no longer intended to shorten Kang's knife any further. The scene then shifted to the classroom, where Kong reflected on his recovery. He had healed quite a lot, and was feeling much better from the injuries he sustained while fighting the boss buffalo monster. However, our boy knew he would need to ask Batten once again for his healing blessing. Leaning back in his chair, Kong sighed. As he looked up, he noticed his status window, which revealed that his physical rank had increased from 8 to 9, and the sword restrictions had loosened. Additionally, our boy's mental rank had increased from 4 to 5, and several other skills had improved slightly as well. Observing these changes, Kong noted that the most noticeable factor was the synchronization rate, which had now reached 12.7%. Unlike other stats, this rate increased dramatically after significant events. If our boy cleared another dungeon, it would likely rise again, potentially unlocking another blessing. Kong further reflected that, despite the rapid increase in stats, there had been no major side effects since the day our boy's hair turned gray. Of course, Kong was still developing more gray hairs little by little. He jokingly considered the idea that strength equals baldness and wondered if, once his hair turned completely white, it would eventually fall out. Then, Kong acknowledged that since there were forces actively targeting our boy, he needed to be fully prepared. Having come this far, our boy couldn't afford to die a meaningless death. He also needed to study how to properly use the blessing of transfer, as the gap between those with blessings and those without was vast. Kong felt a little sorry for Leon, but since Leon was the protagonist, his skill window would inevitably overflow with blessings anyway. There was still a lot to do. First, our boy needed to focus on recovering his body. Then, Kong received a gift, which appeared to be from Chloe. For the first time, Kong had formed his own party and successfully cleared a dungeon. Having his life targeted had now become a daily occurrence for our boy, but it wasn't all bad. He had gained 2 classmates he could genuinely call friends, Batten and Chloe. Neither of them played a significant role in the main story, and Kong wasn't even sure if Chloe considered him a friend. Looking at the chocolate he received, our boy recalled that Chloe had been hospitalized with a fever after the dungeon raid. Kong decided that he should visit her when he had time. At that moment, the instructor entered the room alongside Siegfried, instructing all students to return to their seats. Kong wondered how long the Sword Emperor was going to keep them waiting. Just then, Kang's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, asking, "What are you doing?" Our boy assumed it was a wrong number. However, the next message instructed Kong to look to the front. As our boy lifted his gaze, he was shocked to see Saki standing there with Siegfried. Then, Instructor Lee addressed the class, announcing that, as of today, Saki Ryoso had been officially assigned to their class. The students were stunned by the news, but Instructor Lee quickly silenced them. He expressed his hope that everyone would get along with Saki, and then concluded by instructing the students to change and assemble at the training hall within 30 minutes. As Siegfried and instructor Lee left the room, the students still couldn't believe that Saki Ryoso was now part of their class. What shocked them the most was that Saki had personally requested the reassignment. As Saki walked toward her seat, our boy couldn't help but wonder, is she really coming toward me? Among this year's cadets, known as the Generation of Miracles, Saki ranked 4th. She was a brilliant mind who had topped the written exam, with combat skills to match. A true embodiment of both brains and brawn, she had mastered the Kyushu style. On top of that, Saki was the daughter of Daki Kojima, one of the 7-star heroes, also known as the Absolute Bow. According to the setting, Saki Kojima holds the title of Absolute Bow and also serves as the Prime Minister of Japan. Essentially, Saki is like a princess of Japan. Even in this world, Japan remains a superpower, so it's no surprise that people are reacting as if they're meeting a celebrity. Our boy couldn't help but think that Saki shouldn't be here. This was going to be really annoying. As Saki walked through the classroom, she noticed Kong. Our boy silently hoped that she wouldn't come toward him. However, to his dismay, Saki approached our boy and, without hesitation, stated that if Kong wasn't going to eat the chocolate, then she would take it back. At that moment, it became clear the gift had been from Saki all along. Shocked and slightly intimidated, Kong couldn't utter a word and remained silent. But then, Saki casually asked if she could sit next to our boy. She then held out her phone, instructing Kong to save her number. Internally, our boy sighed, thinking to himself, why are my bad feelings never wrong? The scene then shifted to a dungeon, where an investigation was underway. An officer named Leo questioned a guard, asking what the individuals had said before entering the dungeon. The guard responded that they had expressed concern for the cadets and had insisted on going in. Leo continued his questioning, asking if there was anything unusual about the individuals before they entered the dungeon. The guard paused for a moment and then replied that, now that he thought about it, they had looked a little pale. Hearing this, Leo nodded and stated that he understood. He then dismissed the guard, as he needed to inspect the scene. Before the guard left, Leo thanked him for his cooperation. The scene then shifted to the outside of the dungeon, where another officer approached Leo and asked, isn't death in a dungeon just a common accident? Leo responded, yes, but no matter the dungeon accident, there is always a body left behind. But this time, Leo still couldn't shake the feeling. When he had entered the dungeon for the search, he had been utterly shocked. A mountain of defeated buffalo monsters lay before him. The cadets from Awakens Academy had been there, but this level of destruction was far beyond what mere cadets should have been capable of. While the cadets had returned safely, the staff member who had gone in out of concern was never found, as if they had never existed in the first place. The other officer then asked, could they be inside the stone gate? Leo hesitated before replying, I can't say for sure, but it's unlikely. The stone gate has never opened before. He then further stated, and I can't exactly interrogate the cadets from Awakens Academy who were here. The other officer nodded and stated, that's right. Awakens Academy is an elite school filled with nobles. He then wondered aloud whether the higher-ups would ever issue a warrant. As the officer left for a bathroom break, Leo remained behind, deep in thought. This is driving me crazy, he mused to himself. At that moment, the other officer was suddenly pushed to the ground by an unknown assailant. Leo was shocked by the sudden attack. As he turned to look, his eyes widened. Standing before him was a demon in human form, wielding magic. In that instant, Leo realized the horrifying truth. This was no ordinary person, but a human who had made a pact with demons. A half-human, half-demon. Before Leo could react, the demon struck with lightning speed, taking him down in a single blow. These beings, half-human, half-demon hybrids, were known as villains.